This began as a peaceful protest about 3 hours ago until opposing groups came face to face, and that's when it became hostile. It bounced off the freeway, through that fence, down the hill before crashing through a window that was previously in that building. Authorities say that she pulled a gun on numerous McDonald's employees after they gave her ketchup instead of jelly. One of the officers did have to go through surgery, but his prognosis is optimistic moving forward. But thanks to a smoke detector just like this one, this family of 13 lost their home but escaped a blazing fire with their lives. It's getting to be a major problem. We found several hundred of these large yard waste bags just like this scattered around the streets here in the Twisted Oak Cove area. You can see the paperwork here for these 3 suspects, 22 different charges, including 10 felonies for their role and the alleged shootout that occurred on Shelby Drive.
And that looks like a pretty large file.
This is the 206-page report. It contains every time that Shara's behavior was noted or she was disciplined while she was behind bars before she took that plea deal. It documents a huge amount of issues both with the staff and other prisoners as well. First incarcerated on January 20th, 2018, Shara's first couple of months in jail are undocumented, with her first issue coming on March 10th when she was caught passing a note to another inmate. She was given a warning, but it was a sign of things to come. Wright was cited 7 times that month, the highest of any during her time in jail, and her behavior would get much worse. On May 29th, after being caught passing something to another inmate and having her recreational time taken away, guards say that Wright got naked and flooded her cell, pushing the water into the day room and yelling, "I'm going swimming, y'all." She also frequently had disputes with jail officials. On October 5th, when ordered for a strip search, documents state that Wright began dancing and yelling disrespectful things to guards, including, "You could have at least thrown me some dollars." 3 days after that incident, Wright was deemed mentally competent to stand trial. Although she had appeared in a red jumpsuit to indicate discipline for poor behavior, she wouldn't get an insanity plea. The incident slowed after she was deemed mentally fit. 30 of the 51 reports, including Shara, happened before her mental evaluation was announced, but she wasn't a model inmate moving forward. On March 2nd of this year, records show that Wright became irate over not receiving medication, screaming and cursing at guards and at one point yelling, "My kids make more money than y'all, they're millionaires." She had numerous incidents after that for noise level violations and disrespectful behavior all the way up to July 8th, barely 2 weeks before she pleaded guilty to conspiring to murder her ex-husband. It's unclear if Shara will testify in the murder trial of Billy Ray Turner next month, but if she does, her discipline record behind bars could very well play a factor. If you want to read the entire discipline report that we have here, we have that on our website, WREG.com. Just click on this story. Reporting in studio, Peter Fleischer, WREG News Channel 3. Earlier this summer, we tried to track down a man caught with a young girl in the back seat of his car. This violent sex offender spent years in prison and since getting out in 2011, violated the terms of his release 7 different times. Yet the child's family had no clue about his past.
He never did mention that, that he was a sex offender, he got in some trouble, nothing like that. He never mentioned anything like that. I would have talked to him. Look, you know that you're not supposed to be around kids.
But we couldn't find the offender anywhere. The address listed on his inmate registry was incorrect, with the homeowner saying he'd never lived there full-time. Meanwhile, his address listed on the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's sex offender registry doesn't exist at all. We sat down with the TBI. They explained while they maintain the state's sex offender registry, all of that information comes from local agencies, such as the Memphis Police Department or the Shelby County Sheriff's Office.
They are the reporting agency for the offenders, and they also are responsible for making sure that the information that is submitted is correct, and that is a timetable that I believe they set on their own.
We researched exactly 389 different sex offenders across 8 different zip codes in the Memphis and Shelby County area. We cross-referenced their information with local law enforcement and the state sex offender registry. Shockingly, only 177 of 389, just 45% of offenders, had the same listed address at the local and state level. Meanwhile, 165 of the 389, 42% of the offenders, had a different address between the 2 levels of law enforcement. It leads to the question, where exactly are these offenders living and who's keeping track of them? We spoke with Memphis police, who describe an ongoing battle to keep track of the 1,700 offenders that live in the Memphis area.
It can be problematic. Just in my past, we've had people who have moved into a house and they're like, hey, my address is on the sex offender registry, but that person no longer lives here. Can you have my address removed? So we have had to do that before because they're constantly moving around.
While the sheriff's office does help with some crime in the city of Memphis, they say they're only responsible for the sex offenders who live in unincorporated Shelby County, a much smaller number overall.
You have to try and stay on top of that. We have good communication and good working relationships with all the municipalities here in Shelby County, and if they get information that we need or if we have information that they need, we share that pretty readily.
The problem isn't necessarily that authorities have the wrong address listed, although they admit some offenders are non-compliant and do try to avoid detection. The real issue with the registry is tracking these criminals. How can the police and public track them with so much incorrect data, and how does that disconnect happen?
The breakdown is probably the information that is uploaded when we change the address in the system. TBI may not have gotten to it yet and been able to change it as fast as our people are declaring a different address.
According to TBI crime logs, there have been more than 4,600 sex crimes in the Memphis area over the last 5 years. While the registry remains a work in progress, authorities assure the public they're tracking the problem daily.
We do the best we can do. We get a lot of citizens that come forward and complain about an address that a sex offender may live at, and I'll send my investigators out there and we'll end up locking somebody up.
We do have our fair share of sex offenders that we stay on top of their information and making sure that we know where they are and what they're doing is to the best of our ability.
Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a solution to this gap in information at the local and state level. But there are several ways to track a specific offender or the area that you live in.
There are mechanisms within our website that allows folks to keep track of sex offenders in their area and where they are registered to live, whether that's the mapping feature. You can also get emails based on your zip code or a specific offender if you want to track that person or a certain area.
And while law enforcement does not endorse confronting an offender directly, they always welcome help from the community.
You know, you've heard that phrase, if you see something, say something. This falls in line with sex offenders as well. If you believe someone is out of compliance, contact your local law enforcement.
We try to be everywhere whenever we're needed, but it takes both of us. It takes everybody within Memphis to make Memphis a better place to live.
Just yesterday, there were over 100,000 bees in that building. They burrow into the abandoned areas and create these giant hives. The biggest hive in this building was 14 feet long. But it's not a rarity here in Memphis. There are dozens of buildings and hive situations like this all across the Bluff City. Roger and Diane Hunter, a Lakeland couple that got into beekeeping just a few years ago, were contacted to take apart this downtown building, saving as many bees, hives, and gallons of honey as possible.
You're talking about millions of trips, millions of trips.
Someone asked for a beekeeper? Although I'd surely be no help at all, they got me into an extra suit and sent me up into one of the hives they were taking down. And then we talked while Roger went to work. Is it safe to say that there might be tens or hundreds of hives similar to the ones that you've taken out of this building all across our city?
I would say so. My big rule is it's nature, so there are no rules. There could be one to, like in this building, we've got 5 hives.
There's no telling how many of the abandoned buildings across the Mid-South have massive hives like this one, but if they could be safely removed and relocated to a safe spot, it could present a boon for the bee shortage that has struck our country in recent years.
I've said I'll take bees from anywhere and any place, any type of building. So all I need is a lift and a way to get to it, and I'll take the bees.
How the heck did you get into this?
My daughter wanted a beehive. She's always loved bees, and I ended up adopting her bees. Bees for me now are fantastic mental therapy. They're great for my nerves. They're great for my attitude.
Make no mistake, bees will get agitated if you mess with them, something Roger took joy in scaring me with.
As I separate these right here.
Oh, don't do that.
no.
Oh, no. Oh, they're all over. But whether you're a commercial owner with a big building to handle or a Mid-South native with a hive you don't want, there is a peaceful way to deal with these insects.
Google Memphis Area Beekeepers Association, and then there is a bee removal list on there.
Now, Roger and Diane tell us that they've already removed literally gallons of honey from this abandoned building, so much so they're actually going to start their own locally owned honey business. We'll have more information about that on our website, WREG.com.